other members of the university community, my dear students, the traditional ruler, the only traditional ruler in our midst, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to the 5th inaugural lecture of this university. Today, we are privileged to have a professor of soil science in the person of Professor Ijasini John Tekwa to give us an inaugural lecture. As you are aware, we commenced this series some years ago, but it had to be stalled because of circumstances beyond our control. Nonetheless, we're glad that we're continuing with the inaugural lecture series today. The inaugural lecturer, Professor Tekwa, joined academics in the year 2003. He rose through the ranks to become a professor of soil and water management in the year 2020. I came to see that his papers had been sent out for assessment, and to the glory of God, the papers was done when I was on seat. And therefore, I'm privileged to have announced his professorship in Council and in Senate. I know a citation is going to be given from Professor Tekwa, but it's pertinent to say that Professor Tekwa is somebody who takes duties or assignments given to him with utmost seriousness, and he accomplishes them successfully. I remember when I came on board in 2021, I challenged the academic staff primarily to master the techniques of writing grant-winning research proposals. Professor Tekwa was one of those who swiftly went into action, wrote a grant-winning research proposal, and won a grant from Tekwa. I believe he's still working on the research project. He traveled to the United States of America recently, using a part of the grant. And when he came back, I challenged him again. I said, you are going to be the next inaugural lecturer. And today, where are we? He is the next, and he's going to give this inaugural lecture. You can now see why I said, when you give him a task, he takes it up and accomplishes it swiftly. I tell you, for those who don't know him well, when he comes, he will look smallish in stature. But his productivity is not small at all. I believe when he comes up to give this lecture on the eroding living world beneath our feet, you will confirm what I've said about him. It's therefore my real pleasure to warmly welcome you all to this inaugural lecture. It's also my special pleasure to invite the person who is going to read the citation to step forward and give the citation. Thank you very much, and once more, welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and fellow academics, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce our distinguished lecturer, Professor Ijasini John Tekwa, from the Department of Soil Science and Land Resources Management, Federal University, Wukari. Professor Tekwa is a renowned expert in soil erosion science with a wealth of knowledge and experience. Professor Ijasini John Tekwa was born on the 23rd day of September 1974 as the seventh and the last born of the family of late Mr. Tekwa, Zamduya Ndijida, and late Mrs. Papa Rosemary Tekwa at Duhu, Yelwa Town in Duhu District, Madagali local government area of Adamawa State, Nigeria. He is a Margi by tribe. Margi is a group of people occupying southern Borno and northern Adamawa states of Nigeria. He attended the primary school between 1980 to 1986, where he obtained his first school leaving certificate in 1986. He proceeded to the government day secondary school, Bulak, Madagali local government area, Adamawa State, from 1987 to 1992, where he obtained his senior secondary certificate examination in 1992. Afterwards, he got admitted into the Federal University of Technology, Yola, now Modibo Adama University, Yola, in 1994. Since his placement into the bachelor's degree program in agricultural technology, following his success in pre-degree examination, he was first placed into the crop production and horticulture program, contrary to his choice to study agricultural engineering. He kept pursuing his dream until his 300th level when he got all approvals, but the University Senate declined ratifying all interfaculty transfers then, and Professor Tekwa had to continue with his former course, but switched to the Department of Soil Science through intra-faculty departmental transfer. At the time, there was frequent industrial actions by the Academic Staff Union of Universities aimed at improving university education in Nigeria, which generally delayed his set from graduating until the year 2000. However, when he was in his 400 level, he enrolled and obtained a diploma certificate in computer information management technology as the pioneer set at Mao, Yola. He graduated as the only candidate with the first distinction grade. Professor Tekwa was encouraged by his former head of department and mentor, Professor B.H. Usman, former Vice Chancellor, Mao, Yola, to start his master's degree in soil and water conservation, an aspect of soil science in 2003. He still became one of the pioneer graduates of the department in 2005. Professor Usman still encouraged him to pursue his Doctor of Philosophy degree in the same area of specialization at the University of Maiduguri, Borno State in 2008, in order to avoid being cooked from the same pot. Late Dr. Hamanjoda Usman was his initial major supervisor until his death in 2009. Professor Abdullahi Bala Hassan and Professor Alhaji Meigana Chiroma later supervised him through his graduation in 2014. Professor Tekwa has been a career teacher, lecturer, and researcher starting in 2002 to date. He first taught as a classroom teacher at the Government Day Secondary School Capital School in Jimeta, Yola between 2002 and 2003. He soon got appointed as an assistant lecturer at the Adamawa State College of Agriculture, Mubi, now in Kenya, and served from 2003 to 2006 before moving to the famous Federal Polytechnic, Mubi, Adamawa State as a lecturer 1 in December 2006. Professor Tekwa rose through the ranks to the zenith of his polytechnic career as a chief lecturer on 1st January 2019, an academic title he still cherishes and holds in high esteem as an academic chief. He spent a dozen years at the Federal Polytechnic Mubi. During the period, he was the HOD Agricultural Technology and the pioneer HOD of Forestry Technology between 2011 to 2014 and 2017 to 2019 respectively. He equally served as chairman and a member of several committees such as the Academic Board, Accreditation Committees, and chairing of investigation and disciplinary committees at different times during his service at the institution. At the same time, he was concurrently serving as a part-time lecturer, that's between 2003 and 2014, and later as a visiting senior lecturer at the Adamawa State University, Mubi, from 2015 to 2018. He was also appointed as a senior lecturer in the Department of Soil Science at the Federal Polytechnic Dutse, where he was concurrently appointed as a HOD in 2015. Professor Tekwa taught several soil science courses to students at various levels in different institutions. At the postgraduate level, he taught courses such as soil physics, soil conservation, soil and water conservation and management, soil conservation and water management, principles of irrigation, remote sensing in watershed management, rural land use and remote sensing, and soil survey and land use planning, among others. He also taught several undergraduate courses such as principles of soil physics and soil conservation, pedology and soil physics, soil fertility, soil plant and water testing, soil survey and farm design, soil fertility and soil water management, principles of soil science, introductory soil science, soil field studies, and introduction to agriculture, among other courses. At the Polytechnic level, he taught soil science courses to the certificate, ordinary national diploma, and higher national diploma students. Courses taught include basic soil science, introduction to farm woodland soils and management, introduction to soil science, agroclimatology, pedology and soil survey, and soil fertility and crop nutrition. Professor Tekwa joined the services of the Federal University Wukari as a reader subject to favorable external assessment in January 2019, after declining an earlier offer of same reader by the former Vice Chancellor, Professor Abubakar Musa Kundiri, soon after he assumed leadership here in FUW in 2016. Professor Tekwa became a substantive reader with effect on 1st January 2019, following his favorable external assessment. As a hard-working gentleman, Professor Tekwa accumulated about 4 times the academic requirement, that is over 250 points in publication, for his promotion to the rank of a substantive professor in Federal University Wukari. He then swiftly took advantage of the accelerated promotion era and was accessed internally and externally before awarded his full professorship with effect on 1st October 2020 at the age of 45 years. Between 2019 and 2023, he served as the HOD and Departmental Board Chairman, Soil Science and Land Resources Management in the Faculty of Agriculture and Life Sciences. He is currently the Director for Soil Erosion Research, which he is struggling vigorously to ensure the success of his programs and infrastructural development as an ultimate goal in FU Wukari. He is also the current chairman, University Events and Ceremonies Committee, and chairman, FU Wukari Printing Press Board. Again, he is the executive chairman, Parent Teachers Association, FU Wukari Staff School. Professor Tekwa is also a member of the University Senate Committee of Provost, Deans and Directors, FAST Board, FAST Professors Committee, and Soil Science and Land Resources Management Departmental Board, among other responsibilities. Above all, he is a serving member of the Governing Council of Shalom College of Education, Pambla, Michika Local Government Area, Adamawa, 2023 to date. As a seasoned scholar, Professor Tekwa has published widely in the field of agriculture, particularly relating to soil erosion, water quality, soil perception surveys, with over 60 scientific articles largely published in high-index journals of international repute with several hundred citations. He has also authored and co-authored 3 scholarly textbooks and specially solicited books chapters by academic publishers internationally. He has supervised dozens of students, projects at different levels, including certificate, national diploma, higher national diploma, undergraduate, and postgraduate degrees. Professor Tekwa has been invited previously to speak at several scientific national conferences as a lead speaker, especially in 2017 and 2021. He is also a member of some professional bodies such as the Soil Science Society of Nigeria, International Institute of Soil Science, and the International Union of Soil Sciences. He has also served as a core editor, Journal of Experimental Sciences, Science Alert, based in Pakistan, Asia in 2009, and a reviewer, Australian Journal of Crop Sciences, Australia. Currently, he is a co-editor of the FU Wukari Trends in Agricultural Research and editorial board member, Journal of Applied Sciences and Management, Federal Polytechnic Mubi, Adamawa State. He is also the African First Focal co-collaborator for the Water Erosion Prediction Project, WEP, technology transfer to Nigeria from the United States of America, USA, through the United States Department of Agriculture, Agricultural Research Services, USA, through his international collaborator on web technology, Dr. Dennis C. Flanagan, a professor of agricultural and biological engineering and a lead scientist at the USDA ARS National Soil Erosion Research Laboratory, located at Purdue University, West Lafayette, USA. Professor Tekwa is one of the first two winners of the prestigious National Research Fund grant from the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, Nigeria, here in FU Wukari. The grant facilitated continuation of the research dream he earlier conceived with his international mentor, late Professor John Matthew Laughlin, when he first visited the USA in 2016. Unfortunately, his mentor couldn't live to witness the accomplishment of their dream when Professor Tekwa recently received a grant that sponsored his second visit to the first African visiting scholar professor to the NSERL, West Lafayette, an arm of the USDA, during late 2023 to 2024, to become the first African to be trained on the famous web model, a transferable technology earlier developed for use mainly in the American soils. Professor Tekwa has connected himself deeply to a few university research collaboration teams and networks in the USA, such as the University of Idaho Erosion Research Team at Moscow and the NSERL West Lafayette, an arm of the USDA Research Team. These affiliations have allowed him to become the first African scientist to mount the Nigerian nation from among the African countries on the web cloud interface, with many research possibilities underway. He had earlier won and executed another third fund grant under the institution-based research IBR, which facilitated his first visit to the USA for a training and symposium for mutual research collaboration since 2016. Currently, he has already conceptualized a framework for testing the web model for oil spill mitigation simulations in Nigeria's Niger Delta and Texas, USA, in partnership with his international collaboration teams. Professor Tekwa cherishes travels and wider interactions with people from different races, beliefs, and backgrounds. Apart from touring his country, Nigeria, sufficiently, he has also visited a number of other countries in Nigeria, in Africa, e.g. Cameroon, Lomé, Egypt, and Ethiopia. Also in Asia, e.g. Lebanon, Israel, Palestine, and the United Arab Emirates, and part of Europe, Istanbul and Turkey, and North America, e.g. United States of America. He loves reading, friendships, and watching television, including wrestling, The Jury, Britain's Got Talent, and the America's Got Talent programs, with casual likes for watching shows and functions on footballs and gymnastics. Professor Tekwa is also a core unionist starting from his secondary days. Presently, he doubles as the incumbent chairman, Margi Development Association Wukari chapter, and the Secretary General of his secondary school's alumni, that is GDSS, Gulak Old Boys Association, since 2022. He earlier doubled as the chairman Margi Students Union, students from Adamawa and Borno State, and chairman Madagali Advancement Youth Forum during his undergraduate studies at Mao, Yola, between 1999 to 2000. He also served as acting Secretary General, School of Agriculture and Agricultural Technology Students Union at Mao, Yola, between 1997 to 1999. Hence, he was both a class monitor and a library prefect during his primary and secondary school education, respectively. Above all, Professor Tekwa is a devoted Christian and plays a role of an ordained assistant pastor in the National Evangelical Mission Church in Nigeria. He has exhibited strong commitment to his faith and Christian history when he toured the ancient city of Israel and Palestine as a Jerusalem pilgrim in 2017. Professor Tekwa is colloquially nicknamed a triangular lifestyle man. That is home, office, and church. He is a teacher, a father, and a pastor with many hidden potentials than perhaps witnessed. He is happily married to his very gorgeous and beautiful wife, Engineer Ijapari Deborah Ijasini Koren, who is the mother of their 4 handsomely blessed sons, Joshua, Jesse, Japhet, and Josiah. His siblings are Elder Stephen Tekwa, late Zirbili Tekwa, Mr. Jeremiah Tekwa, Mrs. Monica Tekwa Zakaria, late Sergeant Ijudiga Tekwa, and Mr. Pius Tekwa, being the 6th, with Professor Ijasini John Tekwa as the last born. Fondly, Professor Tekwa had so many first positions in his life, but being a firstborn wasn't one of them. May all glory be ascribed to God, who made Professor Tekwa the man he is today. Amen.
I don't know the secret. He is a professor, he is a pastor, his wife is an engineer. They have captured airports.
The Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academics, the Registrar, the University Librarian, and the representative of the Bursar, if any, members of the University Governing Council, members of the University Senate, chief executives of other institutions. I have seen Dr. Wada here, my Dean, Faculty of Agriculture and Life Sciences, deans of other faculties, deans of student affairs and postgraduate school, Provost, College of Medical Sciences, the Royal Fathers here present, my King of Margi is here in person. Thank you for coming, sir. The Head of Department Soil Science and Land Resources Management, in the person of Dr. Adashu, who just read my citation, other heads of departments, academic and professional colleagues, presidents and chairmen of professional unions and associations, all non-academic staff, members of my immediate and extended families, friends and well-wishers, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the great poets, good morning. I am personally so happy to be here today to present my lecture. This is my inaugural lecture outline. I will want to talk about the context. I'm just done with the protocol. I will look at the preambles to what we are discussing today. I will also look at agriculture at a glance for people to appreciate what I will speak about. Then we look at soil science and living world beneath our feet. We look at erosion prediction conceptualizations. As an erosion scientist, I will talk more of erosion conceptualizations. Then we look at my contribution to knowledge. What have I done to impact knowledge? Then we look at the conclusion and recommendation before I acknowledge everyone here present. Now, as I start this lecture, one question kept running through my mind: how did I get here? I remember as a child, I had so many ambitions, given so many titles to myself. Dr. Ijasini, John Tekwa. Professor Ijasini, John Tekwa. Engineer Ijasini, John Tekwa. Pilot Ijasini, John Tekwa. So many ambitions. I want to be this, I want to be that, as a child. But as I grow, I became streamlined and chose the field of agriculture. When I saw my primary school and secondary school mates seated here, I recall when we were playing with soil. We were playing with soil, with dust as children. And I began to think and recall how we were playing. Little did I know at that time that I will end up as a soil scientist. The dust I played with will be the profession I will become. But through God's help, I have toured the path of the academia diligently, and today I'm being inaugurated as a professor of soil and water management. But this didn't come easily. I can still recall when I have to stiffly navigate my way and path to this height. In fact, just as the reader of my citation mentioned, I had so many complex at the undergraduate level on what to do. I was placed in a course after my pre-degree. That time there was no jam, just started and it didn't reach where we were. So I was placed in crop science and horticulture. I never had anything about crop science and horticulture. Only to see my name on the board as a crop scientist and horticulture, against what I thought I would read, engineering and other big name courses. But to God be the glory, I ended up reading soil science. And this soil science, from the bottom of my heart, I say, is the sweetest course ever on earth. Thank you. Soil science made my life better. It reduced competition. Each time I go for interviews, sometimes I just see myself and maybe one other person. Most times we are both taken, and there was no interview I attended that I didn't get the job. I thought the soil scientists would clap hands. But this hurdle continued during my PhD degree. After presenting all my results, analyzed results, manual papers with the one I used to work on, plus the one in the computer, all in my bag, after showing it to them, then that was the day that there was the first inaugural lecture of the University of Maiduguri. So they invited me, let's go to the inaugural lecture, at least it's good for you, you're a PhD student. Unknown to me that there are other people waiting to boggle my car and they took away everything. All hope was lost. We tried to track it, nowhere till today. But to God be the glory, because of some scraps, you know, sometimes you recopy. So because of the recopied documents that I throw in the dustbin, when I returned, I came and tracing them. That was how I reignited the light, and that was how I get my PhD back. And today, I'm a professor of soil and water management. My Vice Chancellor, sir, and my esteemed audience, this is the 5th inaugural lecture of the Federal University of Wukari, and is the first among the sciences and engineering disciplines in the university. It is the first in the Faculty of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and of course, it is the first in soil science and land resources management. I consider this day very special and so fulfilling to me as a teacher who taught in the secondary school, who taught in the college, who taught in the polytechnic, and who taught in the university. I have all the experiences as a teacher in the 4 corners of a classroom. Firstly, I want to thank God for this privilege. I want to thank the Almighty Father for keeping me alive to witness this day. And I thank you all for being part of my story. And I also want to thank the Vice Chancellor. I overheard him saying in his opening remark, when he said, I challenged him when he came from the US, I challenged him that you are the next inaugural lecturer. My professors here will bear me witness that inaugural lecture is not an easy task. It's not a cheap story. It's a serious story. Perhaps that is why it is not commonly done. But let me tell you that, sir, I'm very excited as I stand here before you. Not only have you given me the opportunity to present my inaugural lecture, but you have also given me opportunity that I never had to put my sponsors in my class. My sponsors are there seated. They were the ones that saw me through the first degree. They are the ones that saw me through the master's degree. They gave me their money. They starved themselves, and they gave me hope to be what I am. I never had that opportunity. Today, they are listening to their product. They want to see whether their investment was a valid or invalid one. But one thing I know for sure is that your head will be head high at the end of the day. So as a soil scientist and agriculturalist, in fact, I'm damn happy, very happy to present this inaugural lecture because of what I packaged today. I'm saddled as an agriculturalist to put forth food on every table and to every man that eats. Don't forget, this lecture is titled The Eroding Living World Beneath Our Feet, an Upshot of Soil Erosion Prediction Protocols and Soil Management. In this lecture, it may appear so fascinating for you to know that the union, the marriage between water and soil gave birth to agriculture. And some of their fiscal relationship evolved the field of soil and water management. And of course, as a result, soil erosion became a matter and became a field of science. The study of their relationship, behaviors, and sustenance, which today I'm a professor in soil and water management. It's a field that is so nice to anchor all the other parts of the soil science because I manage. This subject under discussion has a far-reaching implication on the success of agriculture now and for future generations. Before I continue, sir, please permit me to remind us of the valuable inaugural lecture journeys we have so far had in this university. The first inaugural lecture was presented by Barrister Samuel Asuko Ekanem from philosophy. The second was Professor John O'Malley from sociology. The third was Professor Cletus Emmanuel Shardama, who spoke about towards reigniting the theory of defamiliarization stylistic from grounding and textual resolution from literary English and literary studies. And the recent one being the fourth was by Professor Prince Umar Chinedu Ogundu. Productivity with propriety is prosperity. The policy and strategic financial management age from the banking and finance. The first in the facts is this one. And the fifth in the university is also this one. And it's titled The Eroding Living Wall Beneath Our Feet, an upshot of soil erosion prediction protocols and soil management. And this time is from the soil science and land resources management. Chairman, sir, I still recall the eulogies that Professor Ogundu made during his last lecture. He said, the first was Ijasini, then came restorativism, followed by textualism, and more recently prudentialism. Today, I name my own as conservationism. Today's inaugural lecture happens to be the pioneer lecture, as I said, from the sciences and the engineering discipline in this university. Therefore, as a scientist, I shall be speaking through ample research results, through ample pictures, because we don't do the talk, we do the show. So we'll do the show. I strongly believe that my fellow professors in FALS and from sciences and engineering faculties shall build on this historic foundation I just laid today. My chairman and my esteemed audience, for you to appreciate this lecture, and before I get down to the root of the lecture, let me take us back to where agriculture, soil science, and the agenda of soil erosion began, and how it arrived where it is today. This shall prepare our minds to appreciate my noble contributions to knowledge, and more so, becoming a professor of soil and water management. Agriculture at a glance. I will not be deep, but I will go at the periphery. In both the Holy Bible and the Holy Quran, the books of Genesis chapter 1 verse 8 and Surah Al-Sad 71 to 72 jointly mention that God created the earth, which is the land, which consists of soil. In the preceding verses 9 and 10 of Genesis 1, God commanded the land, that is the soil, to produce all kinds of plants, those that bear grains and those that bear fruits. And God was pleased with what he saw. Again in Genesis chapter 2 verse 7 and Quran 35 verse 11, it was recorded that God took some soil from the ground and made a man out of it. God then planted a garden in Eden in the east, and he put the man he created to nurture and to manage the garden. And of course, since then, agricultural cultivation of the soil originated. That means, practically, God is the initiator of soil cultivation. So, practically God started agriculture in Eden, particularly soil cultivation and soil management. So in addition, Apostle Paul in 2 Thessalonians 3 verse 10, he said, it was a command that if any man will not walk, neither shall he eat. These verses emphasize the importance of diligence and productivity. It is a command. It encourages responsible work ethics and discourages idleness. So this lecture is discouraging idleness and is encouraging being productive. This, Mr. Chairman, and my distinguished audience, the understanding of agriculture is best understood by its sciences, by its practical descriptions, and the divine origin I just spoke about. Agriculture is no doubt the most famous and oldest profession of a man from creation. It is as old as the human history. And today, people practice agriculture in various ways. This table is just to show the branches of agriculture, so that I can recognize my friends: food science, crop science, animal science, agricultural engineering, agricultural economics, and how we work in synergy. But in the normal practice, in the developed worlds and the developing worlds varies. And that is why we want to improve from where we stand. In the developed countries, they farm crops like cereals, grains, fodder. They farm mix, that's mixed cropping, and they even farm animals in a very large size for dairy farming. I remember when I was in the US, the cheapest thing you can get is milk. In fact, you are to be given a gallon of milk twice a week. That means 8 liters a week, free. No wonder when I came back, I was looking better than now. But in the developing countries, you just see we are after sustenance, hand to mouth. Only few are into commercial. And that's not the way it's supposed to be. We have to move from where we are. Literally, let me put the record straight. Agriculture means cultivation of soil for production of crops and the rearing of animals for the benefit of man. Majority of the activities of agriculture takes place at the surface or under the soil surface. That's where agriculture is practiced, not in the air. Now, a study of soil is the soil science, and it's largely in relation to crop production. It's worthy of note that the crucial need to produce more food crops comes along with the need to preserve the soil so that we can get it subsequently. This year, next year, over 10 years to come, 20, 30, 40 years to come, let the soil still be useful. We don't have to over-exhaust it in a way that it cannot give us more benefit. Apparently, crop production from arable and forested soils opened up the discipline of crop science. Our friends, crop science are our closest friends. And well, animal health and production practices on grasslands and paddocks brought about the animal sciences. Agricultural practices such as forest ecosystem management brought about forestry and wildlife conservation sciences. In each of these fields, labor production cost is inquired, money is spent, investments are made. The study of such financial systems and awareness creation about best practices to achieve high return on investment is credited to agricultural economics and extension. In addition, agricultural engineering is another strong arm of agriculture, which is the discipline and the art and the profession of acquiring scientific, economic, applying scientific, economic, social, practical knowledge to design and to build structures, devices, machines, systems, materials, and processes for improvement of lives and well-being of people. What we cannot do with our power, with our energy, the machine will do it for us. That's why we love agricultural engineering. All these branches of agricultural sciences operate in synergy. We need each other. Crop scientists need me. I need crop scientists. If I work on soil and no crop is grown, I become useless. But when I work on soil and crop is grown, then we both become useful. And animal scientists will be there to benefit from our handwork. So are the foresters and all other arms of the sciences. Mr. Chairman and my esteemed audience, today's lecture will, however, largely focus on our divinely instituted field of soil science as a branch of agriculture, and with the objective of, one, unraveling the eroding wall of soil organisms and soil resources beneath our feet, which are periodically threatened by soil erosion. And secondly, to showcase the valuable works done by me. And then thirdly, to reflect on the historic values of soil erosion prediction tools across the globe alongside their management. Then we look at soil science briefly. There is this man named Montgomery. He wrote in 2007, he said, a dirt, a soil, call it what you want. It is everywhere we go. And it is the root of our existence, supporting our feet, our farms, our activities, our cities. Everything we do is on soil. No other profession has this than soil. Are soil scientists in this hall? No other profession has this than soil. This discipline, of course, soil science, is comprised of so many specializations. As he read before, there is soil and water, there is pedology, there is soil mineralogy, there is soil physics, there is all the disciplines put together. And as for me, I chose to profess soil and water management. This is an option which keeps the checks and balances. Perhaps that's why I chose it, of the multifaceted activities of all branches of soil science and even other agricultural sciences. The profession seeks to achieve soil's present and future generosity to man and the food systems, a critical pillar to encourage the SDG in the 21st century. However, this desire has constantly been marred by soil degradation problems, particularly soil erosion, a central focus of today's lecture. Undoubtedly, soil science is the bedrock. All of us lays on the soil. And this soil science is the practice which is also related to other sciences like geography, like geomorphology, even medicine, the engineering, of course, zoology, chemistry, and other sciences. But what is this soil? That is the question. What is this soil? The scientific study shows that soil, to many, is just the mineral particles. But to us as scientists, soil is 50% the solid and 50% just empty. And we need the empty because it is only when the empty is there before we can apply fertilizer, and the fertilizer can also be mineralized in soil. Supposing there is no space in the soil, that 50%, just like here where I'm standing on a tile, and of course it's sealed, so there is no pore spaces at here. If I pour water, the water will remain. Supposing it's a glass, the water will continue to remain. Now, if I apply fertilizer, the fertilizer will not go anywhere. But try applying it on soil, it will go down because there is the 50% which allows it to go in. So scientifically, the mineral matter you touch is just 45% of the soil, plus 5% organic matter, which is rubbed on the soil particles like pomade. Now the remaining 50 is occupied by either water or air at a given point in time, or both in time. This is there is a fair distribution of organisms, 1% of course, in all these 4 components. The mineral soil are formed from rock parent materials. And if you look at the diagram here, you will see that they are formed in layers, and each has physical, chemical, or biological properties. And that is what this diagram is showing. And in this soil, there are other organisms, which is also shown in where these plants are grown. And this organism mineralizes the nutrients and make them available for the crops to take. And before crop is now grown, then we look at the living world beneath our feet. The topic says eroding living world beneath our feet. But what is this living world beneath our feet? Follow me here. Inside the soil, microorganisms coexist in their habitats. And it's where their livelihoods are made. Just as we live on top of the soil and where our livelihoods are also made. The soil body houses thousands of varying soil organisms that coexist as soil animals. Soil animals are soil fauna, soil plants are called soil flora, in billions and trillions in number, which could be visible or invisible, that is microscopic. During their coexistence, feeding systems and life cycles, they execute diverse processes that influence soil properties and plant life. The human population approximately on the world today, we are about reaching 8 billion. If we say that a bacterial cell has 10 billion microorganisms, a gram, 10 billion bacterial cells are found in a gram of a soil. Let's just say a spoonful, maybe a tablespoon, has about 8 billion. And these are living organisms that are always eroded in their billions and trillions every day. Supposing erosion happens to a human population and it erodes 8 billion in a day, then there will be no human person left on the planet Earth. We would have even been in the sea as dead tissues. So today, if you imagine this displacement happened to the roughly 8 billion people, there wouldn't have been anyone left on land. And ladies and gentlemen, let me still emphasize that the soil is another living world, popularly called a biological laboratory with high biodiversity, where several additions, reductions, mineralization, and all nutrient cycling, flux dynamics, and other processes are spurred by these billions and trillions of soil organisms. There is this man, Kastner, and his team. They say microbial necromas, that's the remains of dead microbes, contribute significantly to soil organic carbon, which of course gives yield to soil organic matter, which our plants depends on. They calculated recently that necromas may constitute up to 80% of soil organic carbon. Forest contains maybe 33, and then grassland up to 62. Unfortunately, all these figures, all these values are being washed every day away by soil erosion. And the vulnerability of microbial network increases with erosion. And its activities are largely unnoticed, and impacts may be slow, though may be rapid sometimes. The soil hides these microorganisms under our feet, which serves as a habitat for both fauna and flora. Each of these groups has characteristics that defines them and their functions in soil in relation to providing nutrients, which our crops depends on as food Today, maybe you took tea, you took rice, you took maybe granite. Plants don't take like that. They take nutrients. And that they take these nutrients that are already worked upon by these microorganisms. So these microorganisms, we always want to have them in their trillions and trillions, and that's the secret of having crops to be produced effectively. Each of these microbes, they have their special functions. Summarily, the microorganisms beneath our feet are the hidden laborers, facilitating soil fertility and food production, on which our lives all depends. This is the scenario in the soil. This is how the microorganisms burst through the soil. They walk through it. They influence their property, and they make the plants to grow from the outcome of their work. So if you look at soil fertility is being generated from their handwork. They produce the nutrient supply, they control so many things in the soil, and at the end, they make the fertility and give out calcium, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, sulfur, in particular proportion that is being required to make the soils to be productive. It can be inferred, therefore, that the soil that we call as a living wall beneath our feet and the living wall above the soil which we all live in here are somehow comparable. So I've chosen to compare a few parameters that affirm my claim of a wall beneath our feet. The first is the feeding. We ingest either by mouth, but they feed by uptake, maybe through root uptake, through parasitism, symbiosis. They breathe. We breathe through respiration. They breathe through transpiration. The microbes may be respiration. They excrete. We defecate. They also excrete by exudation. They move. We move by legs or locomotory parts. They move maybe by boring, by elongation, or by locomotive parts, maybe root elongation. We live in houses, in towns and cities. They live in cysts, in niches, in habitats and colonies. We grow by physical increase in size. Yeah, they grow by binary fission. And they grow maybe by apical elongation, size increase, and by expansion, probably. They are organized, we are organized, and we have leadership ruled by power and rules. They are organized by survival of the fittest. Unorganized habitats, sometimes like soldier ants, they are organized, they have a colony. Then their cooperation. In our cooperation, we have friends. We believe in mutuality, understanding, and agreement. They may not have that capacity. They have their friendship by commensalism. They have maybe organized, they have mutuality, rhizosphere and rhizobiums, or by random possibilities. Communicate, we use language, just as I am communicating to you now. But they communicate maybe by function, by symptoms. When you see a yellowish plant leaf, you will say there is less nitrogen, which lead to chlorosis. Now, they reproduce by sexual. We reproduce by sexual, they reproduce by asexual. Now, that is how the living wall beneath our feet operate, and the wall above the surface operate where we live. Now, let me take us to erosion, my field. Now, the concept of soil erosion. Yeah, even the Bible spoke about soil erosion. The book of Job 14:19 recorded that water will wear down rocks and heavy rain will wash away the soil. So you destroy our hope for life. That means erosion can kill. Erosion can make life not to exist. It can damp our hope. It can destroy our hope. So Soil erosion is as old as agriculture, I know, and soil erosion is also a danger too. It can destroy chances of life's existence and makes the life of microorganisms beneath our feet to be vanished. And this erosion has been here since the prehistoric time. It could be geologic, which is natural, or artificial, particularly man-induced. Erosion processes can be initiated and aggravated by wind or water. So during water erosion, it generally cuts and incides deeply, removes the soil and transports them elsewhere, which is a powerful force that shapes our landscape from crashing to death. Similarly, wind erosion also starts with surface creeping, and then it somersaults the particles. Then the particles, through saltation and subsequently suspension in the air, and maybe later get deposited. It also takes away the nutrient because the nutrient is in the soil. Generally, the focus needs to be preventing erosion than to wait to control the erosion, because it always comes with very expensive cost. It is very difficult to manage erosion. Unfortunately, in most of the world's underdeveloped worlds, like Nigeria, we have not prioritized soil erosion as a key where our money should be invested in. Like in US, in China, Japan, and Europe, they have advocated for investment in soil erosion. In fact, the one of US started over 200 years ago, 1873, by Thomas Jefferson, the second president of the United States of America. He was the first advocate against soil erosion. Though we have new map in Nigeria, though we have ecological fund, though we have maybe Northeast Development Commission, though we have university centers like my Center for Soil Erosion Research here in FU Wukari, but yet we haven't advanced to provide regular national erosion estimates or results that can be helpful to the farmer. These are the types of erosion I spoke about. Some are obsolete and some are new, according to Hodgson 1989. The obsolete ones are the splash, the sheet, the reel and interreel gully and ephemeral gully and stream bank. Well, the new ones that appeals to the mind of the scientist is the way they look, like pedestal, like pinnacle, like piping, like slumping. That's a newer classification. And this is the erosion we are talking about. I promised to talk through pictures, and these are the pictures. On a normal note, erosion can only form when you have two intersectional planes with at least a central depression somehow based on a slope, so that channeling of the water on an area we call a watershed to contribute water from both sides that can have an energy, kinetic energy, that can initiate detachment of the soil particle, and then the runoff now picks the particles, transports them, deposits them elsewhere together with their nutrients. That is a cost on the side of the farmer. And when you look at the board here, there are two columns. Towards the one in the green, that side, you will see that that is the water erosion, which has to do with a slope. And then soil from upslope will be detached, then transported downwards until when the runoff force is no more, then it gets deposited. That becomes its new place. Even when the farmer needed to have utilized the nutrient at that point, he doesn't have that chance anymore because it has been translocated away. Now, the other side is the wind, which I just spoke about. These are like models to show how this erosion operates. Now, when you look at the one with the cup, we are trying to emphasize how you can minimize the erosion. When you have a sloping surface, but no cover, and you pour water on it, the water will wash all the soils away. But when you vegetate the surface, the one with the green grass, you pour the water, it will retain the soil. That is conservation. Now, soil erosion can best be protected when you conserve it and leave the surface always green or vegetated or protected. That will yield and give a better result. Now, you can see forms of erosion which has come as a result of poor protection. It has led from sheet erosion, in fact from splash erosion, down to the sheet erosion, which flows uniformly on top of the soil. Then it led to maybe rills, then gully erosion, which is a larger part of erosion problem. When you look at the other side, you will see very big and giant gullies, especially in southeast Nigeria. That is the badly devastated place in the whole of the country. Erosion is a danger and it needs to be protected. That's why we profess erosion and we profess against it. Mr. Chairman, sir, as a child of a practicing farmer who have consistently saw the severe multifaceted menacing effects of soil erosion, when growing up into a man, I became intrigued and challenged to develop a passion for the field of soil science and particularly soil erosion. I witnessed how varying water erosion features are periodically initiated and aggravated problem to the farmer in places where unsuitable tillage systems are practiced, for example, and other incompatible agricultural practices are incurred, and which I have worked upon and wrote about. Then generally erosion problems could be visibly recognized by their present immediate problem at the onset. Maybe it detaches the plant root. Maybe it destroys the farmhouse. Maybe it destroys the farm roads. These are on-site. But more of the problem are off-site, like siltation in the river. The dams will be silted. These are all caused by erosion. And the problems are always very dangerous. So with glaring socio-economic and environmentally accelerated rates of soil loss that reduce agricultural production. Mr. Chairman, accumulation of scientific data on soil erosion and soil conservation has considerably increased across African countries. Yes, we know, but where are we? We are still far behind because we have not seen how these things works for us. I will talk about what happens outside here very soon in this lecture. But at the moment, we are still lagging behind when it comes to what we have done to control the menace of erosion. Pennock in 2019 reported, he said that in the last 20th century, from 1931 to 1999, he said that 5,698 articles were published. But when you look at just between 2016 and 2018, 7,348 articles have been published. That means more courage to study soil erosion has increased. Yes, we know, but where are we in Africa? We are still far behind in Africa. And you will appreciate what I'm saying very soon in course of this lecture. Mr. Chairman, permit me to unfold a brief history of my field of soil erosion science for you to appreciate how this erosion science have started and where it is today and how it has impacted agriculturally. Yes, the evolution of soil erosion studies, its sciences and experiences learned. It was reported by Dr. Wedge that anthropogenic transformation of the European landscape dates back to the Neolithic Revolution, around 7,500 years back. Since then, many alterations to landforms have occurred, and it has continued to trigger a lot of problems to agriculture, maybe through clearance, maybe through deforestation, and other human activities. it continued to be a problem. But SEMA 2019 said that considering the sediment rates accumulated in lakes plus radioactive backdating, carbon dating data, it was found that 5% of the sample lakes that had accelerated erosion over the past 10,000 years. However, human concerns over soil erosion began 4,000 years ago, when soil erosion accelerated in the European nations such as Germany, Poland, Belgium, and Great Britain, probably following the European immigration and importation of agricultural practices. Similar concerns occurred until 200 years ago in North America, when field observation and erosion problems resulted into scientific studies. A clarion call for collective and responsive action was called by Thomas Jefferson, who advocated for horizontal contour plowing in 1813. Mr. Chairman, sir, when I went to invite the ACU to attend this occasion, unfortunately or fortunately, he had to travel this morning, otherwise he would promise to be here today. He was giving me some touches about soil science. I said, I even have His Royal Majesty as our disciple in soil science. And I said, if I come here today, I will further popularize the agenda so that we can have more disciples, particularly in the upcoming younger generation. Soil erosion research and control was significantly propelled by the works of the first generation sets of scientists, like Dooley, like Zinn, like Weschmeyer, like Smith, like Foster, like Mayer, like Miller, and Hammond Bennett. In 1929, Hammond Bennett advocated for a bill in the US Congress, and he was able to win $160,000 for him to establish 10 soil conservation experimental research stations across America, which from there the US government funding was allocated, and that brought about the Soil Conservation Service action in 1935. Following the devastating wind erosion, which was called the Dust Bowl in the 1930s across America. These are the faces of the erosion scientists that first started the agenda of erosion. He said, erosion became ignited when other parts of the world have started receiving or becoming disciples. Like Europe. You know, America started the studies. Yes, the knowledge was there, but there was no practical studies. When America started about 200 years ago, in Europe, in Asia, and in Australia, it even spread all over the world. Even here in Nigeria today, I'm standing before you to profess soil erosion. And it started somewhere, and it is here today. Today, erosion research has immensely impacted agriculture, both locally and globally, in terms of soil erosion prediction support tools. I worked on so many erosion support tools, and I've seen the values. Maybe some you will see along with me as I go into the lecture. These are the faces of Smith, Weschmeyer, and others. Now, the first experimental studies. Yes, Elwal Wuni, a German scientist, was first credited as being the father of soil erosion because of his work in 1874. However, the documented and published measurements of soil erosion were made starting in 1915, and by Macaulay. Macaulay was an PhD student who was working with Professor Miller on a site in the field of Missouri, University of Missouri, and he and Miller worked on erosion. Then came Vikin. Vikin inherited to work, Roselle Vikin, to work on where Miller was working in 1916. And he came about what we call the erosion plot today. In 1917, a study designed to measure erosion on cropland was first conducted by Dooley. And Dooley and Mayer and Miller, being their supervisor, in 1923 published the first erosion report in the world. These are the features I'm talking about. The first one is the erosion plot. And what they did was to measure the amount of soil being washed from the field, and it's being trapped in these catchment basins. These containers you see is to catch the sediments so that they will know how much sediment has been washed and what are the content in the washed sediments. And this was what they got in their results when they looked at those that are vegetated and those that are bare without protection. When you look at the last two columns, erosion, bare soil, and panicum, which is a grass cover, when you look at the one in red, down 6,025 kilograms per hectare was washed on a bare land, but on a soil conserved with vegetation nearby on the same place was just 0.2, not even up to a kilogram, as good as zero detachment. So I am advocating to you that you should practice continuous cover of your soil to avoid erosion. If the soil is protected, then there is less erosion. If the soil is not protected, there will be massive erosion. It has been demonstrated. Then early developments in these studies, they now said, okay, what do we do? Let's think of technologies. How do we come up with technologies so that we can study this erosion? Then came the first issue of the universal soil loss erosion, which of course is the famous in history. Every soil scientist knows about this. The famous universal soil loss equation was developed by Westmeyer and Smith, 1961. They published another version, 65 and 78. And it remains a historic breakthrough in the erosion research history today. The development of the OSLE, that is the soil erosion and universal soil loss equation, the OSLE followed an evolutionary path, according to Mayer, the man I showed you his picture. Well, several others have measured soil erosion and factors that affected it. Everybody gave results, but nobody was able to relate it in the field or to crop. It was, however, the first to do so was Austin Zing in 1940. Zing related the relationship between a long path, the relationship that led to the long path to the development of this model. So the OSLE is a mathematical model, yes, that was developed from erosion plot data, which I showed you just short a while ago, and it is a model that was developed to be able to predict erosion without you now going to the field to be doing rigorous measurement. Now, that was what they did in 1940, but it was 20 years later that the universal soil loss equation was developed, perhaps the most famous achievement in soil erosion prediction in the 20th century. The OSLE was based on rainfall erosivity and soil erodibility, just as this, erosivity and erodibility. Erosivity is a property of the rainfall, the ability of the rainfall to detach soil, the force with which the raindrop strikes the soil, and the ability of the runoff to exceed the resistance of the soil to detach the particle. So that property is erosivity, which is related to water. Erodibility is a soil property, the ability of the soil to resist detachment. And it is based on the physical characteristics of the soil, or based on the management of the soil, or the crop management which we put in place, just as the pictures which I showed. But rainfall and energy of the rainfall deals with the erosivity to give this formula. So they now generated a model that area of a soil loss is basically as a product of erosivity, which is R, erodibility, which is K, a land slope, which is LS, then management practices P, and then conservation, which is C. So this was how they did it. Then they now said, Kai, this is becoming obsolete. We need to go computer. We need to go advanced. Then they start thinking of hybridization of their knowledge and putting their knowledge on computer so that they predict things using the computer. Now, what they did was to have a physically based. So what they did was to look at how will the land looks. Like in this hall now, you know, it's slanting down. That's the way this hall looks. It's not like flat as where I stand. So if it is flat, just the way I stand, you now make the computer to reflect based on the physical position of the farm. Then you now simulate. If it is on a flat land, what happens? If it is on a sloping ground, what happens? That was what they did. And from that, they are thinking the most notable among the new technologies in this fiscally based, we have the ROSLE, which is the revised Universal Soil Loss Equation Model 2, and then the Water Erosion Prediction Model, which are going to be trained on. And I will give you results on the web shortly. Additional work, fiscally based, was the AGEM, Ephemeral Gully Erosion Model. This is what I used for my PhD. I got my degree on AGEM in collaboration with late Professor John Matthew Laughlin, peace be upon him. Now, these models have helped to overcome many of the shortcomings of the OSLE and increase the scale over which erosion can be predicted. Areas of application of erosion prediction includes almost all lands, the urban, the rural, the cropland, forest, rangelands, and construction sites you can use to predict erosion. In this lecture, I've chosen to present AGEM, web, and web cloud model interfaces, which I have also worked with, among other models. They are more recent, user-friendly, and flexible models with high accuracies and with a real-time prediction platform, where from the comfort of your bedroom, you can know how much soil is being lost in the field using your computer. Once you are interneted, you are connected to the internet, you will know how much erosion is taking place in Makode right now. You can know how much erosion is taking place in Lagos, in America, in Europe. As long as you have the input variables right there with you, input it and see the erosion that takes place in that material time. These are the interfaces of the models that I will just speak about shortly. Of course, I'm into them already. The first black screen is what we call the ephemeral gully erosion model. Then the one by the right is what we call the web, which is the water erosion prediction model. Then the last one is my product. This is what we call web cloud. The web cloud is developed by the United States Department of Agriculture, Agricultural Research Service, now by the University of Idaho research team. I was lucky to join, and when I joined them and we were collaborating, I now asked them questions. I said, can you help me extend this technology to Africa? They said, do you have the source data? I said, I don't have. I have to Google to get friends from Europe, Nigerians, Professor Ogonna. And Ogonna made the supplies. All these maps you see, map of Nigeria, soils of Nigeria, were sourced from Ogonna. And Ogonna gave me those resource data. Then we developed what we call Web Cloud Nigeria. This is a technology. These are the areas which you can use for prediction. You can predict on cropland. You can predict on stripped or grassed waterways. That's B. You can predict on real erosion channels. You can predict on rangelands. You can predict on field watersheds with grass waterways. You can predict in forest. You see lumbering. You can predict erosion in the forest. And you can even predict in some areas of larger watersheds, which is the present focus of erosion research. We want to know what happens elsewhere, where we have never been to, where we have never stepped on. Once we could lay hands on the data, we can now predict the erosion there. my student was surprised. When I was in the state, I told him, go and take a data, my master's student, go and take a data in Wukari at Soso Point. When he went there, I said, send me the coordinate. Then he sent me the coordinate. I said, there is a road by the right. He said, yes. There is a tree in the center. He said, yes. There is a channel by the left. He said, yes. Then he asked, how did you know, sir? I said, the technology has gone to that level. These are the men that are behind the success. These are the men that started the technologies. We have Foster, G.R. Foster, the first man to chair the National Erosion Research Laboratory, the pioneers of erosion research. The second guy is Len, was the second director of the National Soil Erosion Research. Let me also tell you that erosion research of the world is based in America. They are the founders of erosion research. No other place on earth are better than them. And these are the men that led the technology. And the third person was my father, Laughlin, John Matthew Laughlin. This man was the man that single-handedly sponsored my first trip to America. And that guy took care of so many things that opened my eyes. He published me to the whole of the world. He opened up a website that an African, where there is no erosion research much there, is coming to this world of scientists. And he will present a work we did in Nigeria. So give him support. He will not attend the symposium. And when I came, they already knew me. And when I was to present, they say, all Africa is on your eyes. And when I presented the technology that we applied on web in Mubi, Nigeria, they were so happy. They say, we will support you. And from there, I maintained a relationship. And that is the relationship I built on when I met the fourth person. The fourth person is the man called Flaganagan. Flaganagan, Professor Flaganagan, is a research director and is the world leader of web till today, from 1999. This man is the erosion, Mr. Erosion himself. These were when Laughlin and other pioneer erosion scientists were collecting a national award for developing WEP, the Water Erosion Prediction Project. Now my contributions. I have already gone and seen the soil science. I have already seen what other people have done. I'm now coming home, or from home, I went with what I know and what I have now impacted on humanity. As a young scientist, Mr. Vice Chancellor and my audience, my research career began in 2000. Just like an undergraduate doing writing research project in 2000. And my teaching and research career further opened opportunities for me to do much more in the educational sector. Mr. Chairman, I'm a pure breed of teacher who never left the four corners of a classroom since 2003. Over these 2 decades, I have served in a few higher institutions in Nigeria. My mentoring started with my undergraduate supervisor, Professor Ibrahim Adamu Zata, who is, please, a round of applause for him. When Zata saw my advert for this inaugural lecture, he took it and placed it on Mautech Yola, Modibo Adama University Yola, as if I'm giving the lecture in Yola, because he was my undergraduate supervisor. He was full of joy. So, my Mr. Professor Bashir Haruna Usman, he was my head of department and my supervisor at master's degree level. This man opened my eyes to facing challenges and being a better person in the field of the academia. He taught me how to write the first paper. Mr. Vice Chancellor, when I went to Maiduguri, I lost my supervisor. Another hope was lost at my PhD. But God willing, Professor Bala Al-Hassan and Professor Chiroma continued with my supervision to see my graduation in 2014. I have also collaborated widely with fellow scientists, which I will show you their pictures shortly, like the Laughlin, which I told you, the Flanagan, Chris Lensler, the present director of the research lab, and so many other scientists like Professor Pett and other international visiting scholars we met. They are all watching me right now through the link created to host this inaugural lecture. Men, I greet you. Mr. Chairman, having taken you earlier through the scientific background of my amiable profession of agriculture, soil science, and soil erosion science, I'm very comfortable now to unravel my key contributions to the scientific world of agriculture, alongside my unforgettable experiences accrued over time. These are the faces of my collaborators. The first was my head of department and master's degree supervisor, that's Professor B.H. Usman. The second is Professor Adamu Zata. The third is Professor Al-Hassan. The fourth is Professor Chiroma, and the others are my current and present collaborators. They are watching as we speak, and I hail them for what they have done in my life. I have 5 key areas of impact, starting with studies on soil characteristics in relation to crop production. My key contribution to knowledge are in soil management, they are in soil fertility studies, yes, with the majority in soil erosion, of course, and by water studies, plus earlier works on fertility of farmland soils. Therefore, I will largely profess on what I have learned, what I have experienced, what I have taught, and what I have reported scientifically. In order to achieve this desire, I have categorized my contributions to knowledge as follows. 1, studies on soil characteristics in relation to crop production. Soil and nutrient management studies. 3, soil, water and environmental management related studies. 4, soil erosion and management studies in Adamawa, Taraba and Benue states. And 5, web technology transfer from the USA to Nigeria and exciting experiences. As I start, I want to first talk about my first work at undergraduate. Assessment of physicochemical properties of fertility and fertility potentials of fallow and cultivated vertisols of Numan, Adamawa State. That was my first degree research project. This project was necessary because of the Numan soils are heavily clay soils. In fact, in soil order of the world, the vertisol are heavy cracking clay that the clay particles predominate, in fact, to even 90 and 90-something% in some cases. Most of the clay ranges perhaps around 40 and above. That means they are generally clay. And Mr. Chairman and my esteemed audience, my quest for acquiring soil information started with this study, basically in relation to soil characteristics in the southern Adamawa State. In 2000, I carried out that research, and I said that the clay can go up to 70%. I may not go detail in the result, but one thing that I can tell you is that in working with that soil, correct timing of appropriate tillage operation and administering of balanced fertilizer nutrients are strongly recommended. Because if you don't time the tillage, once it is moist, no tractor can plow. You can't even walk in the farm. Your leg will sink down. I thank God Professor Tagoa is here. He is my basic witness to what I'm professing. That is his area. He is from Numan, and he understands what I'm talking about. So if some elements are in trace amount there, and wanted to establish facts, and I have to carry out that research to establish the fact. The second work was, we were trying to see, okay, our soils are bad, our soils are not fertile anymore. What do I do? What do we do as soil scientists? We start thinking out of the box to say, okay, let's incorporate this, let's incorporate that. Let's see if it can change the story of the soil, if it can make the soil to be better. Then I started incorporating to study comparative assessment of forest and cultivated soils for crop production. This time is in northern Adamawa State, in Mubi precisely. And from the work, it was found that the soils still possess good potential for sustainable crop production, particularly the forested soil that had greater nutrient contents than the cultivated soils. So the recommendation was that the forested soil should, okay, let's convert it to cultivation, since it has more nutrients, so that we can take advantage of the nutrients in the forested, since the cultivated has been exhausted and it has less nutrients. So that was the recommendation. And these were the results we obtained during the work. Now, these are some of the publications as a result of what we have done. And here, you could see another study was to check what is the actual nutrient status and productivity potentials of the Mubi soil. That's another research. And we looked through to get the status, to know what the status of the soils were. So we now looked at the productivity potentials, revealed that the rain-fed agriculture can be improved by 2 to 6 times, and orchards by about 2 times. And in conclusion, the little soil studied had medium natural fertility and productivity potential with land slope, poor drainage and stoniness, and low nutrient levels as limitations. The natural fertility and the potential productivity potentials of these little soils for rain-fed agriculture and orchards can be improved from moderate to high based on our research. And another work was on soil nutrient and management studies as a second phase of my contribution to knowledge. And it started with effects of separate incorporation of cow dung and rice hulls materials. Because rice hulls, when people started milling rice locally, there were a lot of rice hulls in abundance. And people don't know, it became a nuisance in the community. And because it became a nuisance in the community, we as soil scientists, we have to help. And the only way we could help is to mop these rice hulls, try to incorporate them, see how it can improve the soil. If it improves the soil well, then we recommend to farmers, take this material, go to farm. When you take it to farm, this is what it can give. It will improve your soil, it will improve the soil structure, and it will enhance the fertility of the soil. So we now incorporated these things. At the end, it was recommended that farmers should use higher incorporation rates of the resourcefully cheap rice hulls materials that they have in abundance in their region, so that it will not be a waste or a nuisance or a pollution to them in any case. These were the results we got. And the other work we did was to see if poultry manure, because people used to say poultry manure is rich, but we don't want to depend on stories. We want to check the facts. And the only place to check the facts is to subject it to science. Because I said to understand agriculture is when you do it with the sciences, with the descriptions, with the practicals, before you can understand the agriculture. So we subject it to the sciences, and when we subjected it to the sciences, we found out at the end that higher rates of this material, poultry manure, incorporation, had more influence on okra. Because I tested that on okra. Because people like okra and they take a lot of okra. So we decided to do research in okra. And we found that when you put more poultry manure, you get more okra. It improves the okra. And farmers were therefore recommended to use like 50 tons per hectare of this material for them to get more okra in the region. The third work was to check the effects of this rice hull incorporation this time on garden egg. And when we checked to see what it will do on garden egg, the result shows that so generally suggests that the application of 50 tons as well, just as we did for okra, is adequate. And we recommended the red, so that there will be more garden egg in the area. Then I still check on tomato, because people love stew. People take a lot of stew, people take a lot of tomato. So we try to see how we can impact on the people that farm. So we try to check the potato and the relevance of what we can incorporate. And we try to incorporate this material on the tomato. This is what the result we got from picking from once, twice, third, and the fourth time. And the result shows that application of 75 tons per hectare of that rice hulls should be adopted in the area, because it will give more tomato. It will give more yield of tomato. This is scientific and proven. Now, the fourth, or is it the fifth now, work we did was to also incorporate cow dung on the growth and yield of roselle. We want to see roselle because people also take a lot of roselle. And when we do that in Mubi, again, Tekwa in 2016 did that. Then we also found that 50 tons per hectare of this cow dung will be adequate for roselle. So now I still went into the third phase of my impact to knowledge, which is soil, water, environmental, and environmental management studies. I looked at impacts of traditional soil conservation practices on sustainable crop production. In 2009, we did that work in 9 locations of Mubi. And when we did in that 9 locations, we looked at the present land use, which they were doing. We took note of the vegetation, we took note of the land slope, we took note of the soil class, we took note of the major degradation in the area. What are the things that brings about degradation in that region, in that communities? Then we took note of the traditional soil conservation practices they are put in place. Then we also took note of the corresponding impacts of this technology they put in place. And the study advocated for action by prospective farmers to integrate viable and affordable conservation practices as a roadmap in achieving the expected food availability in the Mubi region, as presented in the table. Now, another work I did in that area to impact on knowledge is to look at estimation of irrigation water requirement for maize. Because most maize, during the dry season, they used to, around these Fadama areas, they used to cultivate maize so that they fry the maize or roast the maize. Is it roasting? So they frost the maize along the roadside. So we want to help them in a way. So we want to check what will be the water requirement for this. So when we did that in 2011, we found that the result also implied that there exists the need for soil moisture supplementation, because we are in a tropical environment where seasonality is a force. Dry season is a big force. And sometimes we have to supplement, otherwise we go hungry. So, especially in the months of September and October, based on the inadequate rainfall inputs which we observed, this work was done in Maiduguri. Then we look at another work, which is to look at, okay, these soils, what if we compact these soils? What happens? What happens to the property of the soil? If we compact it, will water still flow? You know, Maiduguri soil is more or less a silty loam soil, silty, more of silt. You know, it's like sand. So water can move easily through it. It looks somehow porous. So we try to compact the soil. If we compact the soil, what happens to the infiltration? Maybe we wanted to maybe recommend to the farmers that please do a lot of grazing to compact your soil. So, but the research shows that the study implied that heavy traffic on soils may increase compaction and retard root penetration. So that was not a good thing. So we recommended that that should not be done. Don't compact your soil. Don't overgraze your soil. Farmers should not compact their soil due to heavy traffic, frequent traffic, too much traffic, or overgrazing, it compacts the soil and makes water not to penetrate easily and makes the crop root not to penetrate easily as well. The study recommends that excessive or frequent heavy traffic by such as farm implements and overgrazing activities should be discouraged on the farmers. Then this is the graphical representation of the work we did. I did the work under cultivated and then the uncultivated to see if it is the cultivated soil, you compact it, what happens? If it is not cultivated and you compact it, what happens? So that we know at both ends what property of the soil will be affected. Then the other work that we have to do was to see the soil compaction on the physical properties and of this fallow and cultivated sandy loam soils. And we observed that the soil compaction was discovered to have serious negative effects on the soil, on the physical properties. That wouldn't be a good thing to do. So we tried to discourage the farmers not to compact their soils at all. Then we went to the work to look at the irrigation effects of wastewater and Moringa oleifera leaf extract on mineral composition of sorghum, because sorghum is the predominant crop grown in the region. So in 2014, myself, Shehu, we did a work and we tried to look at the irrigation effects of this wastewater. What could be beneficial from this wastewater? And we found out that the wastewater from fish ponds and Moringa oleifera leaf extract in irrigation, when you combine them or when they are separate, they did not increase the heavy metals concentration in the soil. However, use of wastewater and Moringa oleifera leaf extract are safe for irrigation in the region. Now, we went ahead to do another work, which is effects of pyrite application rates on sodic soils, because the soils of Monguno in Borno State, this was opportune by virtue of doing my PhD in Borno, so I collaborated with colleagues there and we did a lot of work in the soils of their area. I told you I had passion for soil studies from the day I started the research work. So the study was done in a screenhouse and this was the result. And it was discovered that determination of maximum pyrite application rate that could completely reclaim the sodic soils of the Baga areas remains a challenge for future research because the sodicity there is too much. I grew up to find my parents buying this local potash that looks like round top made from calabash, right? They told us that it comes from that Baga area. If you take calabash, at certain point during the year, you turn it upside down, the sodium in Baga area, because of so much surplus sodium in the soil, it will fume. As it fumes, it will come and fill the inside of the calabash. Then the next day or the few other days, they will just come and dig around, turn it up, clean the top. They have potash. They take it to the market and sell. With the cow, the goat lick. That's how bad their soils are when it comes to sodium accumulation in the soil. Now, but our research shows that it's still a challenge for the future. Soil erosion, the fourth segment is soil erosion and management studies in Adamawa, Taraba, and Benue states. I started with estimation of annual soil losses from gully erosion. Now this is my main area, which I have been professing lately since my PhD, since my master's degree. Now, I started with the estimation of annual soil losses from gully erosion. And this was my master's degree. The first work we published was Tekwa and Usman, my supervisor, B.H. Usman, which was estimation of soil loss by gully in Mubi area. And these were the gully which we used to estimate the soil loss. So we found that the magnitude of soil loss ranged from 159,570 kilograms to 725,340 kilograms per hectare, which is too much. It's just too much. This was probably because the nature of the movie surface cover, is very terrible at the onset of the rain. We have seasonality. And by May or early June, the soil is still bare. And the rainfall comes with heavy rainfall diameter. The intensity and the rainfall drop size are large and initiates detachment when the soils are basically bare. And because of that, so much soil loss occurs. And remember, we are along the Mandara mountain and there is hill slope. So there is slope which initiates and further accelerate the erosion process. And the report portrays both active erosion as well as signaling the need for supportive collective erosion control efforts. These were the results we got based on what we measured in the field. I measured the first one, table 19, in Mubi area, and when I reached here in 2019, we started work on Wukari, and I was able to get the indices of soil erosion around Wukari area. That's in the second table in 2022 and 2023. Then it continued with this result. Annual soil loss estimates in Mubi, which I was able to estimate in terms of the area of soil loss, volume of soil loss, and the mass of soil loss. And then weight of soil loss. And then we did that in Mubi Adamawa region in 2003, 2004. Then we did the recent one, 2022 and 2023 in the Wukari area. The first table represents Mubi and the second table represents Wukari area. Thank you, sir. So now that brings me to the fourth segment of what I have done in the study. That's estimation of monthly, that's the second part of the estimation of soil loss, which is on monthly basis. What do we get from erosion on monthly basis? If you look at these graphs, you will notice that the erosion between June and September, the graph suggests that in August and September, the erosion rates are high. And when you look at the cumulative curve, you will notice that as the erosion starts in May, it increases through June, July, and by August, September, it is at its peak. Then it falls because of cessation of rainfall by October. And November, the rainfall will be gone. So it applies I come back to Wukari area, that's for Mubi. In Wukari region, this is what was as well obtained. This was done in part of the neighboring local government from Benue State. Here, that's Zaki Biam, right? Yeah, so the neighboring local government in Benue State and Wukari local government here. This result is what also tells us how the erosion varies across the areas. This could be due to the nature of their surface cover and then the slope of the areas. This brings me the third aspect of the erosion research, which is estimation of economic implications of soil losses from gully erosion features. We are talking about soil losses, but what implication does it have to the farmer economically? How much does it take away from the farmer's pocket in terms of money if it is quantified? So we try to quantify it, and after quantifying, this is what we got. In Mubi, in 2003, 2004, this was what we got. The cost implication in the last two columns, you will see that it ranges down to the total of 17,000, and then that's in dollars. This in dollars. Imagine it's $17,000 today. It's much money, right? Then the other aspect is the nutrient and cost estimates in the Mubi area. In 2007, 2008, then this is the comparison we did in Wukari area here in terms of soil loss in 2022 and 2023. We try to see how this erosion progresses. When you compare the 2 years, how related are they? What's their level of association? So you could see in the first graph is up to 0.8, which is 80% related. That means the the process is consistent. What happens this year, it increases to grow each year. Then this brings me to the fifth, that's the D aspect of the soil erosion studies, which is now soil erosion modeling studies. Now, recall that I talked initially that in the developed worlds they started with modeling. And for us to also come on board, we have to as well think of starting to do our own modeling. So I tried to start modeling, and I developed models. I developed model for area, for predicting area of soil loss. I developed a model for predicting volume of soil loss and mass of soil loss. And these were the efficiency of the models. When you look at the three graphs in terms of area was poor really, but for volume is up to 0.9, which is 90% close as good as they measured. Efficiency of the model was very high, 90% related with the actual. And for mass is also 91%. This is quite impressive. And I tried to compare the model I developed alongside other world-class models that we had discussed about. I tried to compare it with, that's my own is the empirical. Then we try to look at the AGEM, which I did at PhD. Then we look at the web, which I did recently. And then we come up with these graphs to compare this erosion. So the one in black is the measured, which is the actual erosion. And then the subsequent ones are the ones predicted by the models I developed and others that I studied on. Now, when you look at them in terms of annual, this is what you see across 6 study locations. That's how these erosions behave when you apply the model. And then these are the models I developed for each of the applications. And when you look at the other side, you will see that the web related with measured by 0.53, which is the foreign. And then AGEM related by 0.57, which is foreign. But my empirical related by 0.67, which is quite impressive, the first one. So the models were now adopted, and we try to now check the empirical against the web. And we look at their relationship. They are related by 63%. My model and the ones developed in America is related by 63%. And the one, the AGEM and then the web, both foreign, also relate by 56%. Now these are the publications we got from the work. These were published in world-class journals. That means the technology is good. I thought somebody will clap. Every professor knows the value of the journal I just placed. They only can tell the story. Now, this brought me to web technology transfer from the United States of America to Nigeria and the exciting experiences. Now, I start with customization of web for Nigerian conditions. This web, by design, is not meant to be applied outside of America. By design, it's a government-funded project. That's why they call it Water Erosion Prediction Project of the government of America. So in the web, it is the 50 states of America. You can put your location inside. In fact, in 2016, when I worked with web, we have to use the temple Texas, a place in Texas that looks like movie in terms of temperature, in terms of rainfall, that looks like movie. So we now took our data, input it under temple Texas for us to predict using the web to give us the result we published. But today, I can confidently beat my chest and talk to you loudly that the web is here in my pocket. The web technology transfer was a collective effort, starting with Professor John Matthew Lafley in 2016, when he invited me to the United States to meet him and to attend an international symposium on gold erosion. where he handed me over to Professor Dennis Flanagan, my current international collaborator on web technology transfer to Nigeria. However, Professor Laughlin couldn't live to witness the success of his dream for Nigeria, as he passed on in 2020 as a result of COVID-19. Though we did evaluate the web model using field variables from Mubi, Adamawa State, and some climate parameters fitted with those of Temple, Texas, US, to enable web applicability, as published and as displayed in 2021. In the most recent visit of my going in 2023 to 2024, the focus of the web technology transfer was to easily apply web. Easily apply web. Using our local Nigerian data inputs, without replacing them with those of the US states. As good as Web Nigeria, if I must say it in another language, on which the web was initially conceptualized. Professor Flanagan assisted in working out our initial dream for accepting to be my international collaborator and taking care of all necessary paperwork for my second visit to work on the web. Notable personalities such as Professor Chris Ressler, the present director of the National Erosion Research Lab in West Lafayette, Purdue University, and who took care of being my host at the lab. Well, the famous Professor Barney Angel, a person with over 600 journal publications, a round of applause for him. And he has over 40,000 citations. These are men of value and substance. And I was privileged to dine and wine with them. A round of applause for me. Notable guys were these guys. These famous world-class scholars have helped to ensure that the web technology transfer to Nigeria was done in 2024. These are the faces of the guys I mentioned. The first is Professor Flanagan, Professor Laughlin, the late Professor Laughlin, who conceptualized the dream and who is the author of the thought. Followed by Professor Flanagan, who now actualized the thought. Followed by Professor Chris Ressler, who gave us the permission to do the thought in the lab at West Lafayette, a national headquarters of soil erosion in America. Then Professor Barney Angel, I used to call him my angel in America because he made life better for me. If not for him, life would have been very terrible because he was giving me a small living allowance. A round of applause for him. In 1985, the USDA began to think of the web. And today, the web has been transferred to China, it has been transferred to Australia, to Europe, and South Africa, Nigeria, that's me, and Ethiopia. These are only few countries, and Turkey, yes. These are the only few countries in Africa where the real web, the real software web was practicalized. A professor at Samaru Zaria wrote about web, but what he did was to do a mathematical calculation, not the web we are talking about. You know, these are concepts. So he's an engineer. He followed the concept and came out with some result, but not using the modern day physically based web which we are talking about. Now, the effort resulted in the development of the web, and then this can now be applied in two ways. You can apply it on a hill slope, that's a farmland, on a slope. Then you can also apply it on a watershed, right? What I mean is this. The second bottom graph, you see hill slope based on the sloping, and then you have the watershed based on the watershed. Then this is where the research have been carried out. The first is the Purdue University, West Lafayette, and this is the National Soil Erosion Research Lab at West Lafayette. This one behind me, and that is Dr. Ryan McGehee. Dr. Ryan McGehee is from the University of Iowa. He used to come to give us training in web because he is a programmer, very high-level programmer. Few of his kinds exist in the US when it comes to erosion research. And then we were in a session with him on training. That is my friend Kemal from Turkey. He's a visiting scholar at Purdue. And this were our tea break, and that is our artificial rainfall simulator. I will show you more of this. See it here. This is where artificial rainfall is being initiated. They have a pump that will pump water. This water will now be pumped through nozzles at a particular intensity, time, and force. Then the rainfall will fall on what that lady is leveling. We put soil there and initiate an artificial erosion. Initiate artificial rainfall. Then there are cameras. You see these yellow stands are cameras. This takes the video. How the erosion starts, at what intensity does runoff commence, how much soil is being washed at that particular time, and down to where it will be collected through a sediment. Now, I forgot to tell you that what made erosion science interesting was when Wukari went and, McClure collected the soil sediments. He came to Miller. He said, Prof, what do I do? I collected sediment. What do I do with the sediment? Miller told him, measure the sediment. When he went and measured the sediment, he now tested the soil to check what was the nutrient content of the sediment. Then he discovered that in the sediment, there were more nutrients in the sediment than the amount you will apply in a year. He came back to Miller and said, Prof, there are more nutrients in this sediment I tested. That means this erosion is washing out more than we can give back to the soil. Then the research said, so that's how it is. Then the interest ignited to now take erosion seriously. And that arrived us to where we are. When you look at this, these are the flumes. We force water through the flumes, put soil there, then we see the amount of soil that will be washed, and then we collect at every sediment. That is when you cover the soil. This is hand of Professor Flaganagan. So he is trying to demonstrate the soil that you put vegetation and soil that is bare. Now, this takes us to predicting potential soil loss using the web hill slope interface. Now, in the web interface, you can manipulate the slope. If you want, you can make the slope to be like this and even come down straight like this if you want, then like this. If you want, you come with the slope gently sloping. If you want, you zigzag it based on the input of the slope property that reflects your farm. So when you look at your farm, take the slope. When you take the slope, come to web. When you come to web, tell web that this is the slope of my farm. Tell web that this is the climate. Tell web that this is the soil. Tell web that this is the management we operate on this farmland. Once you do these 4 things, web is good to go. And you now simulate it. When you simulate it, it will now make web to run and give you the amount of soil loss. It will give you the amount of runoff and it will show you the nature of the erosion and what needs to be done and at what rate was the erosion too much. For example, if you look at this graph, that one, you see a black shading. Black shading means that when the runoff started, it started causing problem towards between 25 and 50, maybe around 20, maybe around 30 or so, that it started detachment. From up, it didn't start anything. But when it comes to around between 25 and 50, it started detachment. It was worse towards 75. Meaning, when you look at the slope here, you know, from the top looks flat, but from here it goes down sharply. And as it goes down sharply, that makes detachment more. And it comes to the bottom here, makes the detachment to be even more worse. That means slope has effect on erosion. And that is what this graph is showing. You can change it otherwise. It can be a relatively flat here, right? When it is relatively flat here, you will see that the erosion will be less. Can you see thin line? That means thin detachment, just small detachment, compared to when the slope is sharp. You have the liberty and flexibility to interact with web, because web tolerates all kinds of flexibility based on the nature of your family. Then brought about this. Here, yes, the slopes will be the same. I'm no more talking about slope. I'm now talking about tillage. If you till your soil, maybe with moldboard plow, when you till it, it will make the farm erosion to be worse because you open the soil. When you open the soil, erosion will commence and the erosion will be worse. Unlike the second one, when you didn't till it at all. When you didn't till it at all, you could see that the erosion is going level, but there it makes hole and to cause detachment with a depression. That comes to this, equally applies, but this is a different shape. So regardless of the shape, the nature of the soil also can bring about problem. Then with the watershed aspect, under the watershed aspect of the soil erosion, you could see that it can be mapped using GPS. Then the last aspect of my impact is this. Web Cloud Nigeria is development and applications. Now, this is the Web Cloud. The Web Cloud was first designed to take care of areas that are burnt, so it can predict sediment, it can predict ash and area of burn, and then ability for the grass and vegetation to rejuvenate within a particular period of time. That was the essence of making the Web Cloud. And it can give more opportunity for the predictor or the scientist to map it on a larger area, more than web. So this is more of GIS inclined than even web, the initial web. So this takes us to a bigger geographical location. And this were the men behind it. The last man is the Professor Ogona, who gave me the source data, and this is me. This is the computer guy that does, the middle guy, the C guy, and the B, analog, and Liu are the guys that are good in computer programming, that programmed and modeled the Web Cloud Nigeria. Then these are our segments. Every week on Wednesdays we meet to discuss what is the next thing we can do on Web Cloud. Up to this moment, I still belong to the group and we still meet every moment to discuss. That will give me opportunity to work on Nigeria and showcase to the world over. If you want to clap now, clap. Now, this brings me to predicting erosion using the Web Cloud in America. This is what happens in America. They have been able to do it across the whole of America. You can apply Web Cloud at your convenience across any region in America, any state, any area. They have already mapped it, taking care of every measurement. So you just only need to specify where you need to predict the erosion. As you predict the erosion in that Web Cloud will give you all the results you want within a fraction of minutes. And it makes life easier and prediction more sufficient. Above all, it gives you what management can you apply. How do you control the problem? Where do you need to put more grass? Like in that web, if you follow the slope in a hill slope, maybe you put grass at the bottom, short grain at the top, and there was more erosion. What do you do now? Put grass at the top or in the middle. Change the pattern, change the style, and see what erosion will come out of it. This is the management. And from there, it will now give you whether minimized erosion or increased erosion based on the scenario inputted. Now, this brings us to what I have done in the web club. This place we are seeing is Wukari, Nigeria. Wukari and Federal University Wukari in particular. We just took a coordinate. This is the coordinate. 7.84 and then 9.78 longitude and latitude. Just these two coordinates. You take these two coordinates, put into the web cloud, it will generate everything for you. It will give you a back history of the land use here, history of the soil, and then delineation of the soil. Maybe it's sandy loam there, it's sandy here, it's clay there. It will do all the delineations for you based on the source data. We built the web cloud, which was sourced from Nigeria. So based on that, web will be able to delineate the maps of the soil. So it now gives you a direct suggestion on what to do and where to do. So that is what we did here. Here is a point outside here. There is a drainage there. This is the drainage. Then here is the predicted delineated watershed slopes based on slope. If you go there, the black will tell you this one is, the slope is low or is high because it uses the internet. So it will take the picture of this Federal University Wukari and define all the slopes. Then this is the map of the slopes. Then after that, it brings me to predicted delineated dominant land cover from single coordinates beside FU Wukari. So this will give me the land cover. What was farmed there last year? What is being farmed now? What is the history of land use? The web cloud will tell me. And it will also tell me what size, how many acres have been put to this. Are they shrubs? Are they forested? Web cloud will tell me without going there, just with my 2-point coordinate. Now, this is predicted watershed soils from just a single coordinate. That's for soil. It will now show me these are the kind of soils there. These are the textural classes of the soil in that area. And this is what it gives me. Then but what should we do? If there is erosion, what should we do? What we need to do is to think of applying erosion management practices. And these are the practices that have been done elsewhere. Every place has a way of their practices. And anyone that is more fruitful are the ones that you need to practice in a particular place. Let me be happy to conclude this lecture at this juncture by telling you, Mr. Chairman, and my audience, that it suffices to conclude this lecture with a take-home fact, that one can become what he dreams to be when it is followed up with dedication and rightful decision taken at appropriate times. It is also true that life will be better if everyone is conscious about soil protection and each land user implements recommended practices that will make our soil become more generous to all humanity. It is also worthy of conclusion that the hidden world beneath our feet contains the unseen laborers who sustain all our lives on the earth's surfaces, including you, myself, and other creatures. This valuable resource we call soil, which some call dirt, is everywhere we go. It is the root of our existence, supporting our feet, our farms, our activities, and our cities. Conserving the soil is a divine instruction that won't jeopardize plants, animal, and human lives. When we conserve our soil, we all need to advocate against any activity that erodes our soils and promote those that sufficiently shields and covers the soil against erosion, and those that can uphold such practices. And we need to uphold such practices and that enriches our soils for the benefit of crop production and sustenance of life here on earth. Efforts to learn, to develop, to modify, or even import technologies such as web and web cloud models that could suitably predict erosion rates and even offer plausible and efficient management options are strongly recommended. Experiences shows that direct transfer, importation, sharing of erosion data from one region to another may not sometimes apply due to different methodologies of their conceptualization and development, inherent properties of the environment under which they were developed. So, for these efforts, we need to do more locally than just depending internationally. Today's technological advancement has boosted soil erosion research and increased land use efforts that drives more benefits to humanity. It is also true that the societies that neglect to control erosion activities often suffers its aftermath and risks their own soil value and societal longevity. That was what Montgomery 2007 said. On this note, I call on every listener and readers of this inaugural lecture note to become lovers of soil, to become disciples of soil, who shall keep, who shall protect, and who shall nourish soil, as God has commanded Adam in the Garden of Eden. May you all be good ambassadors for healthy soils that sustain plants and animals hidden beneath our feet, and also sustain all plants and animals on the surface earth. Conservation of our resources will help assure man's longevity here on earth, but its neglect will have its consequence and impact negatively on our lives. And I wouldn't want to end this lecture without acknowledging few personalities. Please permit me at this juncture to acknowledge few personalities and even all personalities here present. I want to thank God Almighty, having stood before you to lecture, to give my inaugural lecture. I never had this opportunity. I'm glad to have this opportunity, and I'm glad to be at this point. May I start with our professor, our Vice Chancellor, amiable Vice Chancellor, who held the trigger. He was the one that put the energy in me to make this day a reality today. But I want to make a revelation. My visitor, I didn't know that you were serious when you told me I will be the next inaugural lecturer. I didn't know. I only knew that you were serious when you sat down here and said, our next inaugural lecture will be soon. Tekwa, do we fix date for you or you fix date for us? That was when I knew you were serious. And I want to tell you here, sir, as a revelation, I didn't even have topic. When I was seated that time, you said, Tekwa, you will give us fixed date. I never had a topic. Until that time, my eyes became clear to know that, this thing has tightened. So I now started taking my papers, my pen, and started writing. And God helped me to come up with this subject. And I'm glad that I've worked on it. And I want to believe that you have enjoyed it. And I want to thank you most personally, sir. Very personally, I want to thank you. Because if everybody has that opportunity to be challenged, we would have been a better people today. It is lack of challenge that kills the zeal. But when there is challenge, the zeal will be ignited and the work will be done. And the work is done now. Sir, I want to thank your management team. I want to thank the governing council who would have been here today, but because of the meeting, they are not here. I want to thank my fellow senators, the men in the gap. I thank you very much. I salute you for your patience. I thought you would clap for yourself. Thank you very much because of your love and your patience. I also want to thank my fellow lecturers in the university who are not in gown. I want to thank all non-academic staff who are here present. I sincerely thank you. I want to dedicate this work to the loving memory of my late mother and my late father. These are men I will live to cherish until I meet them. They gave me what they didn't have. They gave me education when they didn't have their own. Please, let's clap for my parents. I want to thank our very calm firstborn. If you look down, you will see somebody that is very calm. And that is a sign to notice him. Very calm. All the time, very calm. And that is Stephen Tekwa. I thought he would wave his hand. I want to thank you, sir. This is the man that started everything. When I was a small boy, I had a senior brothers and sisters that he would say, go and sit with them and read. He would go and buy all the novels and would say, let's gather in the middle of the house in the evening. Okay, Ijasini, start reading that book. I remember Gulliver's Travel. He bought it for me. The gods are not to be blamed. He bought it for me. The gods are, is it something crazy? The gods, You remember? You say? Aha, that's the name. He bought it for me. He bought it when I was still in primary school. He said, start reading. And I will be reading. I will be reading where I don't know, you put me through. And that propelled me to be a better man. Please, this man needs to be honored in any way you can do. I want to thank my senior brother Jeremiah Tekwa. He is an epitome of brotherhood, the symbol of charity. He can pull off his clothes on his body and give you to go. And he may decide to go on t-shirt, on vest, just to see that you are pleased. What do I mean? He can give you his widow's mite for you to go to school. And I am very gratefully indebted to him. I want to also thank my twin brother. People used to ask if we were twins. We're not twins. I'm 7 born, he's 6 born. That is Pius Tekwa. They used to say 2 brothers. And because of that, he's among us today. And I want to thank you, sir. I want to thank my wife, my gorgeous and beautiful wife. I used to call her the engineer. That's the way I call her, the engineer. the engineer. Thank you. This woman, if any successful man, what do they say? This is a copy of that slogan. I want to thank my brother-in-law, Mr. Zakaria Uri, the one that married the only daughter in among seven siblings. We are in a house of 7, 6 boys, 1 girl, and he is the one that married the 1 girl. Thank you, sir, for coming. I want to thank I wouldn't want to say my son, but let me reduce it to my brother. This is somebody, when I didn't have anything, when even our brother was the Speaker of the House of Adamawa State, who would have made a chairman of his wedding, he said, no, it is you that will be chairman of my wedding. And he is a DSP, Upper Judah. These people travel all the way from Maiduguri, some all the way from Yola to grace this occasion. And that was a great effort. Despite the fears, even not because of the demonstration tomorrow, this empty seat you see would have been full by my people. They would have filled up this place because most of them wanted to be here. I want to thank my children, Joshua, Jesse, Japhet, and Josiah. I won't forget to acknowledge my sister Saratu, who welcomed me, the first person to welcome me in Wukari. She was cooking for me when I didn't know where to go and eat. And I want to thank her and thank other people from the Margi wing, Dr. Gazama, Wiser, Ilya, and so many of my people that are in color. I think you can stand up so that they see you. People in uniform. I want to thank some of my brothers that are not here. I may not have the time to mention their names. But I will live to respect Professor Bashir Haruna Usman, who started my academic career. And I want to thank all my supervisors that supervised me to this day. And I want to thank my predecessor, late Professor Joseph Tanimu. He was the man that received me in the Department of Soil Science as my head of department. Very kind and gentle gentleman. And I want to thank my present head of department. I want to thank my dean. I want to thank every FALS. I want to thank everybody in that faculty. I want to thank the presence of my royal chief, the chief that are here seated, and the Sarki Margi from Jalingo. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for coming. He said he must witness this occasion. He came all the way from Jalingo to grace this occasion. I want to thank you all, all the royal class. And I want to thank my alumni members. When this announcement was made, they contributed over $500,000 to me. That's GDSS Gulag alumni. I am their secretary. This one will give 100,000, that one 50,000, that one 100,000. Before you know, it's a lot of money, and I thank them all. I want to thank the Margi People Development Association here in Wukari. I want to thank Adamawa Borno. I want to thank FU Adamawa staff for all that you have done to see that this program succeeds. Thank you, Professor Shandama. I want to thank all the members of these groups. And I want to thank my workaholic governor, Governor Amadou Fintiri, The reason why I call him with a loud voice, if not for him, that third phone cannot take me out and bring me back. He paid for my return ticket. So I want to thank my governor, Governor Ahmadu Fintiri, for his kindness. I want to thank him and thank him very well. And I want to thank and acknowledge all my international collaborators who you saw their faces. I want to respectfully thank Professor Ogona, who you also saw his faces. I want to thank all my collaborators at the National Soil Erosion Lab, who I cannot mention your name. I want to thank my collaborators at the University of Idaho who are watching me now. Thank you, man. I love you all. And I want to thank my long list of students. I want to thank Dr. Amadou Husseini, my first son. He is now a senior lecturer, I think, at the University of Dutse, my first son, who I supervised. Dr. Amadou Hussein, he was to be here, but because of this intended protest, he had to decline. I want to thank Bashir. I want to thank all my spiritual fathers who have also been here. And I want to thank, acknowledge everyone present and witnessing this occasion. Thank you and God bless you all.
We can do better than that. Let's put our hands together for Professor Ijasini John Tekwa. Prof, let's have a seat, please, quickly.
The 5th Professorial Inaugural Lecturer, Professor Ijasini John Tekwa, Professor of Soil Science and Water Management, who delivered a lecture on the eroding living wall beneath our feet, an upshot of soil erosion prediction protocols and soil management. On this day, Wednesday 31st July 2024. Inaugural lecturer, it's my pleasure to give this plaque to you. Yes. Certainly, we cannot pay you for this inaugural lecture. What we're giving is just a token of appreciation for the wonderful lecture you have given, and to congratulate you on taking up the challenge to give this lecture. I will make more comments when we're about to leave. If you look at the program, I have opportunity to speak again. I will talk more when we come to that point. Now is my pleasure and special privilege to hand over this plaque to you. That is from the Department of Soil Science and Land Resources Management. Okay, they have written the thing there. They have given him 50,000 naira. Congratulate you and appreciate you deeply what you have done. Inaugural lecturer for this university. So, I think the man is everywhere. A lot of people have shown appreciation to him, and I will join them. Land Resources Management, 2023-2024 session. Sir, this one is from 500 level students. I don't know what is inside, but you know, if it's dollars, can be converted to something big. But all these are signs of love for Professor Tekwa. Can we give him another round of applause, please? Prof, congratulations, sir. Thank you. Very successful woman is a lady. I want to use this opportunity to appreciate the wife for taking good care of, for believing in him, and for bringing up those children of his that he talked about. One of them is already a doctor. Is that not so? I think they have done well. Can we give them a round of applause again, please? Okay, thank you very much.
On behalf of the Vice Chancellor, as a researcher myself, I've made an observation, a discovery. Professor Tekwa is not only a professor of soil science and erosion, but is also a professor in love. He is a Romeo. You see, sometimes when you see some people's wives, you just wonder, how did this man convince this woman to marry him? So now we know that Professor Tekwa is what we call in Hausa Bakawanla Sabani. Yes, he's a Romeo. So well done, Prof, for marrying this gorgeous wife. You tried. Well done. It's not easy. That aside, time has already gone. The main thing I took from this lecture is that soil is not as solid as what we, the lay people, think. No. Soil has other components. It has space. It also contains water. It contains air. And there are some other living organisms. And without this balance in soil, the soil will not be productive. I think that has stuck to my memory till kingdom come. So to the vote of thanks, and I think this is very easy. I'm giving this vote of thanks on behalf of the Vice Chancellor, Professor Jude Samani Rabo. First of all, as he will do himself, I know he will thank God Almighty. So we thank God Almighty for keeping us alive and for giving us the ability to continue this series. We thank God Almighty for giving the VC the vision to initiate this series and giving him the ability to continue with the series. Some of you might like to know that, you know, council is holding now, and there's a committee which VC is supposed to chair today. But because of this occasion, VC changed the date so that you will be able to attend this. Please, all the deans, all the directors, all the HODs, all the people that are heading units, we thank you for coming, despite your busy schedules. The family members, the brothers of Professor Tekwa, and the only sister, the brother-in-law who married the only sister. So for all the brothers, for all the family members, all the other women in uniform, all the other people that came all the way from Maiduguri, from Yola, despite all the security situation, please, we thank you for coming. And we pray that Almighty God grant you the safe journeys when you are going back. Your Royal Highnesses, when I heard that the Chief of Margi from Jalingo is here, till Margi sir, you are highly welcome. We thank you. The Vice Chancellor is very happy that you are here. You are welcome. Gara of Donga, you are highly welcome. You are highly welcome. The Vice Chancellor is happy that you are here. Other staff of the university, other academic staff of the university, non-academic staff, support staff, everybody, the Vice Chancellor is happy that you are here. Everybody that is here, we pray that God Almighty that brought you here safe should take you back to your places safe. Thank you very much.
Has to do that, and within a short notice, you can see he has performed brilliantly well. I think we need to clap for him. Yes. Although he has thanked all of us profusely, let me just repeat one aspect. That is to thank God Almighty for the gift of this day. It is a day the Lord has made, that we should rejoice and be glad in it. We rejoice that Prof. Tekwa has been in our midst and is still in our midst and will continue to be in our midst. We believe that this community is blessed with such a person who is quite knowledgeable in erosion control. As we are all aware, we face erosion threats and challenges even in this university. We know that erosion is a real threat, and I charge Professor Tekwa to go a step further, give us advice on how to prevent soil erosion in this university. Another item that we should rejoice over is the presence of his relatives in this place. His treasurer ruler, the one that is from Jalingo, his brother, his wife, and other relatives are all, I'm sure they are happy. I'm sure they are proud of him. So we join you all to appreciate Professor Tekwa for what he has been doing and what he has done today. Let me stress clearly that I believe this lecture has been well delivered and it has been well received. All we need to do is to leave this place and go and use or put all the recommendations that we have seen in this lecture into practice to promote agriculture, to forestall soil erosion, and improve food security in this country and beyond. On that note, it's my pleasure to declare this inaugural lecture closed.
That is
Hello.
Or the danger associated with soil erosion on a given soil. You have just heard me lecture when I said when McClure, in 1916, when he went and analyzed sediment that was eroded, he discovered that there were more nutrients in the sediment than where the soils were eroded. So that is to say, if we think soil is not destroying our farmland, then we are mistaken. So we, in a way to forestall the problem of soil erosion as an advice to the state government, there should be an advocacy group that will showcase use of certain management practices that will convince the farmer. You know, farmer doesn't listen to just mere radio message. He doesn't listen to a mere news, but he wants to see a demonstration plot. So if the state government will fashion a way of maybe creating a demonstration where we can bring to do erosion plots for them and bring farmers to see, we do workshop, then we can go a long way in controlling erosion problems in the state. So, and I will be very happy to lead in that role.
So how do you relate the soil erosion to food security?
Yeah, because the erosion takes away the soil, and permanently. It takes away the nutrient, and it's permanently. And if the nutrients are not there, then soil is just good for building. It's no longer good for production. So when we are talking of soil erosion as in relation to food security, it's a direct link. It's not even indirect. There is no intermediary between them. It's a direct problem because it destroys the soil. That's why today, once we don't have fertilizer, it's as good as don't go to farm because the nutrients are gone. So once you don't have fertilizer, you can't go for maize because there is no nutrient left in the soil to take care of the maize. So it's a direct link with erosion because the erosion takes away what the crop needs. And once it is not there, then the crop cannot produce well. And since it cannot produce well, then you cannot get good yield. So it's a direct proportionality.
So one would like to know, what are your plans to ensure that the knowledge gained goes beyond lectures, just the way you present it?
Yeah, as you see me right now, I've come fully loaded. I just returned back from the United States of America, with a lot of technology in my head and in my laptop. And I will want to demonstrate it. I already have students that I'm supervising in PhD. I'm even working on the whole of Taraba soils to predict soil loss and crop yield loss. That's the work I'm doing now. So very soon I will publish the work and I will organize a workshop for farmers to come and see how they can reduce this problem of loss in terms of soil and in terms of their yield. So I'm prepared, because it doesn't end in the class, because I already have a center. We call it Center for Soil Erosion Research. So very soon, we have already applied to Northeast Development Commission to come and erect a center for us where we can host our laboratory. We have made a request to Northeast Development Commission. They will supply the equipment, they will supply the facilities which we can use to go to the field, to take our research, to now see how we can readily come up with things that can convince the farmer. You know, the most important thing is to convince the farmer. When fertilizer came, they thought as if it was a fiction, until when there was demonstration plot that made them to see how the maize can yield, how the crop can yield, how the farm can be better than before. And because of that, the farmers now became convinced that we are no longer laggards. They were laggards, but no longer laggards, because some even became early majority in learning new innovation in agriculture that can put food on the table of the common man.
Talking about new innovation, you talked about web cloud.
Yeah.
How do we intend to deploy technology in mitigating erosion? Because you talked about it has to do with your research and application.
Yeah, web cloud is a new technology that is still new in Africa. In fact, there is nowhere in Africa that web cloud has been tested. What you saw on the board when I was presenting, I think is the first demonstration in Africa, right? Because it's a new technology that the University of Idaho research team, which I belong to, initiated through the sponsorship of the United States Department of Agriculture, led by Professor Brooks and Professor Pet Robichaud. These two guys and Professor Mary Miller and other professors, they put this together to find a way of predicting soil loss and then burn. Maybe there is wildfire burn. So, but that can be extended to watershed. That can be extended to forest. That can be extended to even farmlands. That's why I was able to predict even here. We don't have burn here, but we have watersheds which can be predicted. We can predict crop yield, we can predict soil loss, and the relevance of this web cloud in Africa is because it goes beyond the initial web. The initial web structure is within a range of 1 to preferably 150 feet rectangular. So you can best predict erosion on that scale. But how we used to apply web to be able to predict on a larger field size is when we have like rectangles in that second way of prediction, which is watershed prediction. So it will predict in form of that 100 by 50, another 100 by 50, another 100 by 50, and then a spread of 100 by 50 all over the space. Then the computer has that ability to sum it and then predict when it sums and then simulate, then give you the total soil loss on the entire watershed, right? So, and web cloud has more facility to that because it's now linked to GIS, and it's been linked to the global web. That is why when I applied the web cloud from the US, I was able to predict, even I can take the whole of you here. Even as you are interviewing me here, I will be seeing you. That's why my student was even surprised. Why are you telling me there is 3 in the center of the farmland? Because it's there, I'm seeing. So the technology makes life better because it predicts readily well. And it can give you understanding of what operates in a place and what can be done in a place, because it will give me the slope, it will give me the soil type, it will give me the land cover, and it will give me the management, and it will come and delineate them in form of a map. So I only need to go to the point. From this point at this coordinate, it is this soil. From this point at that coordinate, it is so-so crop. At this point, at that point, it is this, is that, with precision. Is that okay? So that is one advantage of the web cloud. And web cloud can be applied on a wider scale. So it gives more room or that flexibility of expanding it.
Compared to web?
Yeah, of course. I can predict the whole of this university in a web cloud. But web, I need to partition this university into partitions within a small size. Then I will now sum all the outcome of the predicted estimates to have a total soil loss for that environment. That's how it works.